step in front of the camera.
All right, so we're going to start off the, September 18th Homeschool-Board panel discussion. So anybody who's looking for a school board still, here we are. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this to record live as the internet was not working properly for me, so we are just recording. So first we're going to start with Heather Scott with Green Orchid 8 Coaching.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here. I appreciate the invite. I met Maria when I was doing work with a project called Kids for Cameras, where we collect gently used equipment and we redistribute it to youth who might not normally have access. A chance to learn a new skill and connect with a mentor. So Maria invited me here today, and the reason that I wanted to come and share information is that I've been working on a program, a short workshop that allows parents to interact with their children or youth that they're connected to in a different way, and it's based on a coaching model. So I'm a certified coach with Ericsson International. I have an ed degree, and I've done program development and management in different educational institutions over the past 15 years. What we're looking to do is, I'm also a single mother of 2 teenage boys, so I have also done some parenting in my day. So basically we're wanting to share with parents that there is a way of listening and connecting with their youth that is not something that is necessarily currently in the parenting realm, and that is parent as coach. So instead of having it be only instruction, only do as I say, it's a co-creation, which is very similar to the coaching model. So if one of you were to come and we were to create a coaching session, it would be what's most important to you, why is that important to you, and how will you know that you have that? And then creating an experience and moving into action. And it's really from the belief that everyone is okay, the child and or the client has the best of intentions, has all the resources that they need, and has the ability to make the best choices for themselves. So we've patterned the workshop experience on this coaching model, and it's the idea to, whenever I talk to people about what's available in coaching, it's about creating time and space for someone to actually connect with what matters to them and what it is they would actually like to create. And so this workshop is based on the same idea. Parents who are wanting to connect with their youth through the power of listening and the power of being truly present have an opportunity to come for a one-day workshop and begin the exploration. It goes from how you were parented, how you are currently parenting, and what you would ideally like to bring to your parenting. So it's considering what's possible, and it usually is based in what we actually have control over, which is ourselves. So it's not looking at fixing or doing anything with your children other than showing up in a way that you are intentionally creating. So workshops are going to be running later this fall. I'm going to be attending some of the homeschooling coffee meetings in the evenings to do a short exercise with parents who are interested in. So I'm planning to come next Friday.
Okay.
So I really think it's next Friday on the south side. That's what I was told.
We'll discuss that.
Okay. And so if you have interest in learning more about what is available through this, I do 20-minute consultations over the phone if you're looking for anything specific in the coaching realm. But in terms of the workshops, if you'd like to send me an email, I can leave some of my business cards with Lindsay.
Please.
I'd be very interested to connect with, for instance, the equivalent of parent councils that exist within this differently structured realm.
Excellent. And I think that's a very valuable service for a lot of moms, well, parents, not just moms.
So inclusive
Yeah. Parents, but especially in the homeschool realm, because quite often we have questions.
Well, and one of the reasons that Maria and I connected about this, and she was interested in having me share, is that her experience is that sometimes when parents are dealing with different challenges, they community that they can access and gain support or information. But this type of structure allows them to really let what's most important or what's most pressing to come forward for them. And that's individual as people are. So
Excellent.
It's nice to have that. The ability to customize what it is they'll be taking action on. And Maria is very action oriented, so
That's why she's not here, yeah.
yeah, she is a very dynamic person and has created a lot of connections for this nonprofit that I volunteer with. So it was really wonderful to be able to cross the
Excellent, thank you.
So
Yeah,
thank you
just
very
leave
much
your
for the
information
time.
with
And,
me.
It's nice to meet other educators who are working in ways that are customizing to what you need. It's very encouraging, and thank you so much. Thank you.
And I understand you have to go to another meeting, so
I do.
yeah, so have a good night.
Flexibility for that.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. And will I leave these with you?
Yeah, just leave them with me, and then if anybody has questions, I can always give them your information and go from there.
And I'll check with you about
My secret tour.
Excellent.
That's great.
You missed your photo. Mom, get out of here.
The center of the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Okay, go, please. Who would like to speak next? I'm turning.
Alright. So Janelle and I, this is Janelle Jameson, I'm Karen Whitehead, we're from Willow Home Ed. Our motto for Willow Home Ed is education your way. So we help support parents that are home educating their kids from school at home type with curriculum. I'm not sure if you're familiar with all the definitions, but school at home, like sit around the table and do all the curriculum, kind of similar to what the kids do in school, all the way over to unschooling that doesn't look anything like schooling, and it's just kind of getting your kids to follow what they want to do when they want to do it, and just kind of helping open doors for them. So
we cover a wide area in Alberta, everywhere from Grand Prairie to Lethbridge. We only offer the traditional parent-directed route at this time. We're a secular board, and which is wonderful. We're very accepting of every religion or not, every person, LGBTQ friendly. Everyone's welcome. All of our home education managers are homeschooling right now. Both Karen and I are both homeschooling our children, or they have in the past homeschooled their children.
So we have one that was homeschooled herself and is homeschooling her children. So there's lots of that to draw on. We're attached to Third Academy School, that's out of Calgary. It's a special needs school. You don't need to have a special need to be with our board, but we do like to draw on the expertise of all the teachers at Third Academy. So if you do have a child with special needs, then all of the home ed managers talk together. We all have experience with special needs. We do our professional development with the special needs teachers at Third Academy. And we share resources if we want to call the autism specialist and ask questions, and so that would be something that we can help offer parents as well. We offer a kindergarten program called Willow Sprout. You're assigned a home education manager, and then for the whole year, you're not actually homeschooling, but you can hang out with the whole community that we've created, and you can ask questions to your home ed manager, come on the field trips, meet other parents that are home educating, so you can ask them questions and just start to get a feel for the community and be able to ask questions, come to the coffee night, stuff like that.
We're really big on community here at Willow, and we facilitate that by we have coffee nights. We just started this year. We do group buys to theater performances. We just really want to gather everyone and know that you're not alone and there's lots of other people like you, and we can all learn from each other. We do field trip Fridays where we'll either go swimming or go to the legislature, go climbing, do STEAM projects at the library. We're always mixing it up, just so that we can appeal to
As many
people as possible.
We have one big outdoor ed trip this usually a year that our principal Joe takes everyone on, junior high and high school, and this year they're going to Kananaskis and going to visit a World War II internment camp, and they're going to do hiking to Troll Falls and just lots of fun stuff, outdoor ed stuff. So it's a 3-day trip, and he likes to do that every year and invite everyone on that. We also offer high school, so you can do high school for credit, like if you wanted to get a diploma, or do high school without credit, and we support you either way, or however you want to do high school. If you wanted to do self-directed for credit, we'll help you come up with a course that you will follow for the year that meets the program of studies, and we have course outlines, and we have proposals and stuff like that that you can look at for examples. We also offer the ADLC online or print-based. We have had many graduates that have gone on to post-secondary school, and we have a graduation ceremony. It is in Calgary, but it's like cap and gown, and it's really cute and awesome for those high schoolers to do. Yeah.
So going back to our community, we also have a Willow Facebook group. That's very active. You don't have to be with Willow to join the Facebook group, because we're just all about sharing. So the home education managers are all really active on that page, and so are other parents. So you can go on there and ask for resources for social studies and pull up many things that different parents and different home education managers have suggested. There's field trips that are posted there, all of our field trips here, and then of course all around Alberta there's field trips that
If you're going to Calgary for the weekend and there's one for the week, you can join in on those field trips too, and meet the rest of the Willow community.
definitely. Parents are welcome to also organize events and get-togethers and post them on the group. And yeah, and anyone can join, and we just, if you're in a different place like Karen said, feel free to look up what's happening in Red Deer that day and connect with other people.
One of the really most popular things on our Friends of Willow Facebook group are our subject threads. So we just posted social studies, and then people just keep adding stuff like free stuff or field trips or curriculum, like anything social studies, and then math, anything math. So it's kind of a good resource to go to if you're kind of stuck for ideas and you're wanting to create your own program. Yeah, that's Willow Home Ed. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Okay, now we will see Verity with E2 Academy.
So, my name is Verity Johnson, and I teach with E2 Academy. E2 Academy, we run a private school for twice exceptional learners, as well as we also have a homeschool arm that is open to all students of ability and diagnosis, whichever. So so E2 Academy, our philosophy is very strengths-based. We want to focus not on necessarily remediating or fixing what is, other people might see as a deficit in the child. We want to look at what are their strengths as learners and how we can help assist parents in developing, their strengths and the uniqueness, the unique abilities of their child. And so we offer grades 1 through 12. And we have traditional, which is the parent is the full specific teacher, and the parent decides the program. And we also do shared responsibility, which the person from the school is the official teacher, and we work together with the family to come up grade 4 social studies is, the topic is, you know, a sense of place, and this is, you know, here is a stack of 20 worksheets or a book and this, and 2 videos that you need to watch to, you know, meet the objectives, if, you know, if you chose social studies, you know, your kid was in grade 4. What we do in school, as well as with our homeschool students, is look at what are the things that they're interested in, and how can we look at meeting the curriculum objectives through their individual interests. So I have, I teach our class 1, which this year's grades 3, 4, and one of my students is very interested in trains, and you know, and all of the things with trains. And so we were like, oh well, you can teach the geography of Alberta through his specific interests. So instead of saying you need to color this map and you need to have, you know, all of the things that you need to learn about, well, how do trains fit in with the history of Alberta? How do trains fit in with transporting goods, and you know, and how does that affect it, and where is the geography, and where do the train lines, and why do the train lines shut down, and all of those things you can build into a thing that a child is passionate about, which makes their learning just come alive for them. So that is the thing that we're wanting to help parents with, of how they would like to educate their child and figure out how we can meet curricular objectives in order to do that. As well as, you know, just the traditional where the parent says, okay, this is what I would like to do, this is how I'm going to meet the objectives that the province has set out, and come up with a plan that meets the objectives, great, you know, we will let you access, you know, we will access the funding just like any of the other boards will all do. We also, because of the staff, the school staff we have, we also offer for children with special needs that we can write IPPs, especially if it's necessary for accessing other funding or accessing services. We realize that there's a lot of other things that an IPP is good for, aside from just in a school situation. So we do offer that support, or just even just coming into the school and asking, you know, hey, I'm having a struggle, or this is what I'm encountering at home. Do you have any ideas? And at school we have a diverse group of students. They're all really, really smart. Some of them have significant struggles in how to demonstrate their learning or how to access their learning. And so we're used to thinking outside the box, and we want to support students because we believe that they are successful. That even though there's things that can get in the way of their learning, that if we find a different way to do that, if we help families, you know, gain different skills, then the learner can be successful and the family can be strengthened and empowered to educate their child.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have posted on the event page that my Wi-Fi wasn't working well enough for live, but if anybody wants to post questions for any of you boards, they can do it in here, and I will ask you guys for them. But so far, nothing yet. Posted 2 minutes ago. We still have time. Okay. So let's move to the left with Joanne Henderson with School of Hope.
Okay, so my name is Joanne Henderson. Very briefly who I am. I currently am a facilitator for Vermilion Homeschooling, which is a branch of the School of Hope. I myself am a 13-year veteran of homeschooling. I took one child from kindergarten. Her first day of school was at the university, and she's just about a pharmacist now. And my other 2 children have also moved into university. So this does work, and it's a scary thing when you're sitting at your home by yourself, but with communities, it actually can be quite amazing. The School of Hope is a Catholic school. It does accept children of all faith backgrounds. And in We are covering the entire area of the entire province. The school itself has been running for over 20 years as a non-resident school board, and we now offer 3 different types of programs for children from grade 1 to 12. We have a fully teacher-directed program which is delivered online and in print. With the online program, there is daily lessons that are recorded, so your child can attend the lessons at real time and ask questions, or they can access them and watch them at a time that's convenient for themselves and yourself. So it is considered an asynchronous program because it is set up to match with your lifestyle. It does allow some flexibility in how you choose to present the material with your children and in how you get the jobs done. We have a fully parent-directed program, which is Vermilion Homeschooling. I am the facilitator. I just found out I'll be coming from Cochrane all the way up to high level, so I get to travel the entire province just about and get to meet people all over, which I'm very excited about. But this is where the parent is the teacher, and as facilitator, I'm here to help you to access materials, to gather ideas. Since I've been doing this for a long time, many different materials you may not know exist, but through networking we can definitely find help for you. And our third program that's offered through School of Hope is a shared program, so that you can combine both a teacher-directed portion and a parent-directed portion. I know many parents who, for various reasons, choose to work with their child in math because they're 4 years ahead of what their typical grade is, but they have them enrolled in a teacher-directed program for language arts because, for myself, if I had a teacher-directed program, I may have used it for language arts because my children didn't want me to read their writing. So it was always a little bit like pulling teeth. With this school, you can easily move between the 3 streams. Life changes, and you can 1 year be fully parent-directed, another year be fully teacher-directed, and later on change to something else. With us, you get flexibility, some curriculum choice. You definitely get to learn at your own pace. You can attend your daily lessons or watch the pre-recorded lessons. And we do field trips throughout Alberta. Most of them are based in 4 different centers. One is in Vermilion, one is Leduc, which is covering the Edmonton area. There's one in Calgary and one in Lethbridge. So depending on where you're at, there's definitely opportunities in different places. And that's my spiel.
Thank you. It was excellent. Anybody have any questions for me?
In Alberta, it is, in the entire world, it's the parent's right to educate your child. The things that you can do with your children just by knowing them and encouraging their likes and challenging what they don't do. You are supervised by a teacher. You have us that you can talk with. You do not need to have certification to teach your own child. You've been teaching them since the day they were born.
Okay. Your sign's all the way that way now.
I like it.
And now we have Brett Bowers with the...
And actually your question's a good segue into what I wanted to share, which is oftentimes teachers have the hardest time being home educators. And my journey into home education started by learning that very fact. I had to unlearn some things as a teacher. And I learned that because my younger son learned how to read, not by my expertise, but by just listening to me try to teach his older sister how to read in our basement. So he just started reading after about 6 months. And I said, well, Lawson, how did you learn to read? I was totally taken back because I, the teacher, didn't teach him how to read. And he said, well, I'm just listening to you and Kendall. I'm like, really? So no one had to teach him. And so I thought, wow, okay, there's something very interesting going on here. So that's made its way to how we run things at V, which is to really want to empower the parents to feel that they can be the teacher. Oftentimes, my wife, not being certified, didn't think that she was able to homeschool our children. And I thought, well, I'm the one with the certificate, I'm going to come and I'll figure this out. Well, I wasn't needed at all. I was sometimes in the way because I was bringing my teacher stuff into the basement. And I should have left my teacher things at home or in my office and not brought them home. So at V, we definitely want to come beside our parents and encourage them to be the teacher and to encourage them to know that they can be the teacher. As Joanne mentioned, you've been teaching your children since they were born. That doesn't stop just because they enter grade 1 or this thing we call grade 1. So you just keep teaching. We try to encourage our younger families especially to not think of themselves as a school. Now, Ken has a great definition of schooling based in Latin, and maybe we'll get a little history lesson there. But I'm bringing the school in terms of kind of today's understanding of school. Institutional, yeah. School as an institution. And that's just not what we're about at all. So we help our families kind of get out of that mindset and into the mindset where they feel empowered to do the teaching at home. Because really you've been teaching all along. So you have a great set of choices here in Alberta. Like everybody here has great programs. It's a good problem to have, but a bad problem to have as well because there's so much to choose from. And you might be thinking that all home ed programs are similar to what you're hearing tonight, which is very parent-focused, parent-empowering. That's not necessarily the case. So I would definitely look at the names of the groups here and remember the groups because there are many, many differences among the different programs in the province. And most of the differences can be boiled down to how the official program people view you, the parents. Are you really in charge, or are you just kind of a helper to the school run their program but in your house? So that's something to watch for as you're comparing one group to another. But that's my spiel. And definitely wanted to encourage you in your homeschooling ideas that you can do it. Oftentimes a lot of families think they can't do this is too much. I think you give the school institutions way too much credit for what happens in a classroom. I think there's as much learning going on in that corner back there as what happened all day today in some of the classrooms across the province. So don't think that you're not able to do what's in your mind and heart with your children. Okay, I'll pass it to Ken.
Well, thanks for the segue, Brett.
Yeah.
Brett's son is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Wonder. In fact, we put out a magazine 6 times a year, and the theme of the September magazine, which is in our information package, so grab one. The theme is wonder. And the reason we wanted to use that theme is actually it's wonder that causes learning. You look at children, young children learn extremely quickly. And they learn quickly because they wonder about everything. And actually being ignorant is a catalyst. Because when a child has wonder and they don't know something, they really want to know it. And so they're actually impelled to learn by their ignorance. And then we get children into an institution, into a classroom where when you wonder, people laugh at you because you don't know the answers. And being ignorant is seen as a handicap as opposed to an opportunity to learn something. And so children very quickly pull into themselves and stop wondering. And when that happens, that's when you get a child that you can't teach. They don't want to learn because it's dangerous to admit that I don't know something. And it happens to us as adults too. How many times have you been at a meeting where you've had a question, but you knew you'd look stupid if you asked the question, so you kept it to yourself? I've done it. I mean, we all have had our sense of wonder dampened by being mocked or belittled in some way. And that's the beauty of what parents can do that no one else can do. And that is make it safe to be ignorant of things. Make it safe to wonder and to feed that wonder. And also parents make the great model if parents themselves wonder. If they're willing to expose themselves to the child as being ignorant too. Well, I don't know anything about Yugoslavia. I wonder what people do there. Let's wonder together. And that's what really makes homeschooling work, is that you are wondering together. And so, yeah, you've got a lot of options and programs. What we try to do at Wisdom is support the parents' capacity to wonder. One of the programs we offer is mediated learning, which helps parents to actually become better at instilling wonder and drawing wonder out of their children. We also have an online, for the junior high and high school ages, an online great books course where they read great thoughts, they'll read ancient philosophers, and people who wondered about the universe and wondered about the natural phenomena around them, and who put it down in their books that even today that these are standards for great thinking. And so it teaches the children to not only wonder, but to develop the capacity to even wonder further through the minds of the great authors and then through their own minds by discussing, hearing what the other students have to say online, and they themselves trying to express what they think the book is about. And so that whole capacity for wonder increases. So I brought some info packs. They're in the envelopes here. So grab one for sure. At least you get a free magazine. And I brought some booklets too. We do a number of these, but I only brought 3. One is about our online Socratic dialogue courses, the thing I just described. One is about games that build capacity for thinking. There are a lot of excellent games. Children play because that's the way they're designed. That's the way they learn. And there are a lot of actually very practical lessons that can be learned from playing games. And this one, I really think you should take. It's called Spellbound. And it looks at all the data, well, not all the data, a great deal of data regarding the use of media, the use of various online and in-hand media, and the impact it has on the child's capacity to develop thinking. Actually, we're going to end up with a generation of children who are handicapped in terms of their cognitive skills because of the various technology that they're immersed in. So grab one of each of these as well. I'll just leave them on the table.
Great. Do we have any more questions?
Well, thank you, Ken, and thank you, everybody.
What style of teaching? It is entirely yours. Our job, and Brett will agree, basically everybody around the table will say, these are all parent-delivered programs. So the parent designs the program, the parent delivers the program, the parent evaluates the program, and the parent decides what to do next. Now the facilitator helps the parent, find resources, encourages the parent to develop a good plan that they can actually follow, because the plan is actually the way that you not only decide what you're doing next, but also the way that you evaluate and see how successful you've been. So all those things we help you achieve, but it's entirely based on what the parents choose for the children, A to Z.
One thing with unschooling is the definition of unschooling. So as Ken mentioned, the definition of school is oftentimes an institutional structure. And so when you want unschooling, sometimes people mean different things. And so with several of our families, when they say unschooling, They want to get away from structure where everything's designed around resources or time as opposed to those things helping the learning. And others want assessment to be done more like out of wonder, right? Not assessments with hard and fast multiple choice questions where it just saps the wonder from you, but more project-based things and real-world living. And you actually go out there and learn to do something and experience it. So the definition of unschooling can mean many different things, but I think I'd go back to what Ken was saying about letting the wonder guide you and lead you. And then I would have to say with unschooling, it's an upfront investment in your children in the sense that it's more work, but the payoff is huge, right? There's a lot to be gained by unschooling, but it is oftentimes seen as more work. You look like you're busting with something.
Busting with Scola.
But it's so worth the extra time and effort, because with unschooling, you can tailor it to your child's interests. You're not grabbing something off the shelf and saying, this is what we're going to do today, and you're going to like this, right?
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, you're going to like this. So.
And isn't it amazing how many different directions this one interest will lead into?
Oh yeah.
And then when you have a student who's had experience with that for many years, my own daughter's in high school at the moment, and she knows that she wants to go to art, so she chose to go to building school, and she wants to get an art degree, so she's like, well, she also has learning issues with like profound math disabilities and stuff, and so she's like, well, there's no sense in killing myself trying to take a -3 or -4 course, because that's where she is. She can't do it with the level of support that her school is currently giving her. So she's like, well, I'm just not going to take, so I'm not going to do a high school diploma because I don't need that to get into university. And so she takes English, she takes social studies, she takes psychology, but then she also takes art and photography and drama, because those are all the things that she's needing for how she's made. Her brain cannot process the math. It's going to be a losing battle, and so she can't do the math, she can't do the chemistry, she can't do a lot of those things, and there's so much work that she isn't able to do it. But we don't need everybody to be strong math science people. We need people to be out-of-the-box creative thinkers, and that's where she's at. So she's comfortable with this. So she's comfortable with who she is as a person, and even though her friends, parents are saying, you need to take AP biology, AP chemistry, and you need to be a doctor, she's like, Mom, I'm so glad you're relaxed enough just to let me be my own person so that I can be successful, because it's not worth it to go against how they're made to be, because their mental health will, like their health will decline, their mental health will get affected, and that's really not worth it. Why are we trying to make everybody be the same thing to fit in the same box when we have so many other things we can do?
I think that's wonderful that you're able to even have that mentality and give that to your kids, because coming from a background where you're told to go to school and specifically to just get a degree just because, my parents immigrated to Canada and that's what was expected, just to give that opportunity of having our kids to know that they don't have to fit a certain mold. That's amazing.
Time for a history lesson. School actually means unschooling. The word school in English comes from the Latin scola. And it comes from a time when all children worked. Everybody worked. From as soon as you were, strong enough to hold a hoe, everybody worked. And the term scola, the Latin word scola, means leisure devoted to learning. So you would take time off from work and take leisure devoted to learning. And really, unschooling, that's what it is. You've got the leisure of not having to have a particular program or schedule. All those things can be useful. But to actually have a period of time where you're not distracted by other things and you can just learn the things that that wonder causes you to want to gobble up. So, yeah, thanks for saying that.
I also, personally, some of the labels, so I've met many unschooling families, and every single one is different. And so as soon as we put a label on things, we're not necessarily responding to our children and doing what they desire and how they will do it. So just, yeah, when you hear the labels, yeah.
Because a lot of you mentioned parents focused and parents driven.
Yes.
So my question was that's the only way to look at it, right? Because obviously the way I look at homeschooling could totally be a different degree of other people's vision of that as well, right? But in terms like saying parent directed, you know, program focus, it's important to know that there's also different ways of teaching, and if you're also open to that and supportive to that.
We just named something, we all used a term that we understood.
Yeah.
But wasn't it, so parent directed is simply saying that that is homeschooling where the parent and in response to your child, you choose the style of schooling
I
you're
understand,
doing.
okay.
So if there's not gonna be a teacher coming in and saying, this is what you need to do, you're not necessarily going to do the program as the government has laid out. It's the family is choosing to do it, and you as the parent will be delivering an evaluation.
And this is a legal right that you have.
Absolutely.
There are some schools who don't even know that it's your legal right, and they'll try to impose school on your home. But in fact, it is your legal right for the parent to make all those choices and all those decisions.
I think maybe it might help to clarify that the three choices of and whether or not the school board provides it all have to do with funding. And so you could be totally what's called either fully aligned, whereas the school is they're the ones who give the programming. You get the maximum maximum funding is applied to your child. The shared responsibility, some of that is your responsibility as a parent to give the programming. Some of it is the schools, and usually it's some combination of online or digital portfolio, those types of things of like communication. And then there's traditional parent directed, where it's the least amount of funding, it checks the box to say you're not being true and not providing any education for your child, and that allows you to plan your program. The school comes in and looks at your program, and you're evaluated according to your program. You receive the funding based on what your program says. So if your program says, you know, I'm going to be using, you know, that I need this Lego erector set because we're learning about ears or something, then that's great. You have a reason why you're spending the money on your Lego erector set. It's in your plan, and we can check mark and go, yeah, it's in the plan, and we're going to, you know, refund you the money for that receipt, reimburse you the money for the receipt. Whereas if it's not in the plan, then the school can't reimburse what's not in the plan. That's just sort of like a detail that almost like all boards. That's what it is.
But it is a living document.
Yes. I would say probably most boards will have your plan can change. You just need to let somebody know that you're changing the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that would depend on the school board, but I would say probably most here they're flexible.
The school board helps to create that plan.
If you wish, absolutely. But so I'm pretty certain everybody sitting at the table and everyone who works with us are there to help, like to identify what you're looking for, how you can place it down. Just usually just conversations with you, right? Can be both. Yeah.
It's actually a requirement by regulation for a home ed teacher to help you with the program plan if you wish.
Yes.
That's actually on the form, and it asks you if you want help. So that's required.
But still, at the end of the day, when grades got raised, what child the homeschooling received, like in order to enter a university or any college, what he has on campus to show that he actually completed
Those are choices that the parent makes. So the choice to either get Alberta credits or not is up to the parent. if you have Alberta High School diploma, which requires certain steps that you'd have to take. I think everybody here would help you with that. If you want an Alberta diploma, you do that. If you want to go a different route in terms of the high school, you have that absolute right. Our second oldest never got a single Alberta credit. He studied the things he wanted to study, mostly the great books. He studied ancient writings, and he was a guinea pig when we began the online Socratic dialogue courses. He got, as a result of that interest, he ended up able to get into a classic university in the United States with no credentials from Alberta at all. So that it is very possible. It's even possible in Alberta. Concordia University, King's University College, those two in particular, but others, Trinity Western in BC, they will all accept homeschoolers with absolutely no Alberta credits. They just want to basically know that the child is literate, is able to actually do the work, has the skills necessary for the program they're going into. And they'll do that either through an essay, mostly through an interview, often with a recommendation from your school, from V or from Wisdom or from Vermilion Home Ed or whoever you're with. And so there are universities here who will take a student with no Alberta credentials. There are other programs in Alberta where they demand an Alberta High School diploma. So we would help you to do that if that's what the goal is for your student.
My oldest daughter, the one that's finishing up her pharmacy, she did not get a high school diploma. She chose a slightly different route. So we were kind of child-led right through the end of grade 11. And she knew where she wanted to go. To get into many university courses, you only need 5 grade 12 level courses. So she did those 5 courses through a distance learning program, and that's how she got into the program. She says it's been quite entertaining at times with some of her classmates when they learn that she doesn't have a high school diploma. They can't quite figure out how she got there, but she's in with all the rest of them doing just fine.
It's funny, the same son I told you about,
Same way.
he came back to Alberta and got a second degree in education. And the first day in his life he was ever in a classroom was when he had to do his intern teaching. And none of his peers would believe him when he said, "I've never been in a school before." Yeah.
She knew which program she wanted. She tailored her grade 12 year to studying that material so that she would have the transcripts and marks to get into the university.
So she still did the Alberta.
She did five Alberta courses with their diploma exams. Yes.
Okay, but that doesn't automatically give her a diploma, right?
She does not have a diploma. For a diploma, you need to cover the 100 credits in a number of different areas.
You guys were blessed to organize the meeting in October, and Concordia came and they specifically said, you don't need to have a diploma, all you need to have is English 30 and Math 30, and then if you wanted to go into sciences, a Science 30. And so they were really open to homeschoolers, and you don't have to have the diploma to go that route.
How do you then have a child that didn't attend school do with those type of testing? Because I remember I came from Ontario and I had to do grade 12 where, I had to do grade 12 because in Ontario they don't have provincial testing. So the level of education was also very different because I had to adapt to provincial testing, which over there in Ontario was just teachers. So how does a child then adapt to being homeschooled and then having to do the course?
Well, you do the course work as well. You don't just write the test. So if you're doing English 30, you do all what's required for English 30, and then you write your diploma test as well. So it's all, you have to do the work to be able to write the test. learn about, like, you have to find supplemental material to be able to do the answers, right? Yeah.
You can write placement exams or use something like Exam Bank or the Key. Lots of other resources out there, and that can help you place your, see if you're ready.
Thing is, the student hasn't been sitting on her hands for 11 years. She's been learning math, right? And especially if she's interested in being a pharmacist, she's been interested in math and science. So she's been learning it all along. What she did in her last year, I'm presuming, is she just intensified the study for the particular requirements of the diploma exam.
Yeah, and what I experienced with my children, my two younger ones didn't go into a high school because I was working full-time and the homeschooling wasn't working. All three of them, they didn't have the exam anxiety. They hadn't come through the system where everything depended on that one moment in time. And so when they were facing the large exams, we talked about it simply being, this is your day to show what you know. We talked about what's the absolute worst thing that can happen. And so if the absolute worst thing happens, how do we go on from there? And they didn't have the fear of taking an exam. They looked at it as that opportunity and that chance to show what they knew. And even now they don't mind. It's like, oh, at least the test, I know I can study for it, go in and it's over with. So they don't fear it.
The key is that homeschoolers tend to learn how to learn.
Yes.
And so they're not as threatened as kids who are in the school who haven't learned how to learn. They've learned how to take whatever is given to them and regurgitate it. That's entirely different because they're not thinking for themselves.
Going along with that as well is with homeschooling, you're able to tailor to your child's learning style. So I know I learn different than most people. My child learns the same way I do, which is different from most people. We need to be exposed to something and then just let it not be even mentioned for months, and then somehow our brain processes it, and then we can go back to it. But it can't be hammered down and down and down. We're not practicers.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say that all the kids in school just regurgitate. I mean, kids there learn how to think too, and learn how to learn. But it's a lot more natural process at home.
Yeah, we can tailor to our individual
Exactly.
needs, and I've read books and stuff where every child in a household has a different learning style, so it is a lot of work for the parents, but the kids are able to get the tailored learning that they need. And another thing too with kids going into universities that I've read and heard in podcasts is they're not burnt out by the time they get there. So they're there because they want to be, and they're ready to start on their career path.
So with my second grader, I want to start teaching her social science and history later, like grade 4 and grade 5. I can not teach her those specific courses right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Read to her, do basic numbers, read some more, read about interesting things. There's your social science. Read about the place you live, read about where your ancestors came from.
I mean, like, grade 3 social studies is all about different communities in the world. Grade 4 is about Alberta. Like, it's just, if you expose them just to, like, hey, look, there's an interesting note on this, or as we go for a nature walk, well, why are the mushrooms there? What are they doing? Why do you have a lot of mushrooms growing this year? What's the difference between this year and last year? Like, different things that is just so natural in life. If you look at it and just explore a lot of different ways that way, and they can just take it and absorb it. It's just
wonder.
Yeah.
Just wonder.
There's no requirement to replicate in your house what's going on in the classroom. A lot of new families who are new to home education, think they have to replicate the 4 core subjects, 2 or 3 options, this or that, and you don't have to do any of that. If that helps, fine, but really that's not necessary.
Okay, so what if they have been reading
change boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what they should be asking, you've set up, you have to do a written plan that you file with us. And what we ask for is show how you, the steps you've gone towards reaching the goals you wrote down. And sometimes, as well, if somebody says, what have you done in social studies, it's sometimes just thinking outside the box. It's like, well, you know what, my child has learned to hold doors for people when they're walking. They learned a social skill that, or, you know, we had someone visit from Ontario, so we talked about what Ontario is and why it's such a big thing. I've often told people, intentional teaching something. I mean, there's skills. Our reading and our writing and our mathematics computations are skills. And everything else I look at as content to practice your skills. It makes it just changes the feel of what you're doing. I need to practice reading. My son is interested in trains. I'm going to find books on trains. I'm going to take him to the library, help him find what he likes. That sort of idea.
One thing to remember about the program plan and the evaluations that you're referring to is that the evaluations are relative to your program plan. So you get to determine the evaluation, right? So it's not necessarily on grade level, proficiency of anything. It's just how are you, actually there are two, according to the regulation, there are two requirements of the teacher coming in. And it's to evaluate progress and achievement. But those are relative to what you've said in the program plan. So it's not according to the school's standards or expectations. They're according to your own expectations. So there's really no need to stress. There are big differences among the provinces and how they conduct evaluations. So sometimes when we have families come from like BC or another province, they come here and they have the kitchen table full of every single thing they've ever done that year. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, well, don't you need to see everything? I'm like, not everything. And it's just a different way. You're not necessarily accountable in a policing way. You just need to show them how are you progressing through what you've established and what kind of achievements. It's like a show and tell. Yeah.
Like for my class at school, I just looked up at your plans. They have, so a lot of them like cooking. So I'm like, okay, cooking with my BA, and all, you know, I went through science and social studies, and like language arts, and all the things that when they have their time, they're appreciate what they're going to be learning, what we can check off of the I-can statements, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that they're, you know, so it's not that they're going off and doing something fun and, you know, they're not learning while the rest of the class is doing stuff. They're also meeting curriculum objectives that are very valid and are totally appropriate and what the class should be doing. They're just doing it slightly different.
Another thing too is as long as you're doing things with your kids, they're learning no matter what. Like these are a group of kids, most of whom have never met before, and there's been no yelling, no crying. They're playing with Lego. That's their math, their social skills, their language arts, their let's throw some science in there somewhere. Sugar. Yeah. Plus sugar metabolism to bedtime ratio with Timbits. So they're just this, they're learning no matter what. And Kenneth commented on games. I'm going to say, based solely on my gaming shelf at home, there are multiple games for every single subject, and if you beat me to Value Village, you might be able to get some of them. But
There's even game school groups that, and you don't have to play games based on the different subjects. I find it difficult to find any game that doesn't teach math, that doesn't teach language skills, cooperation, all that kind of stuff. Playing games, just playing, is so important at these ages. Yeah.
Let me also throw this in there because it gets back to how the program plan is supposed to be viewed and used. The registration form for home education has the name notification form. And I always try to make a big deal of this because I think the name is important. You're not enrolling, you're really not registering. You're notifying the government that you are establishing and creating a school in your house. And that you're just notifying the government that you're not truant. You're notifying the government that we'll go through wisdom or thee or you too, you know. You're notifying. You're just giving them the benefit of the knowledge that you're choosing to create a school in your house. And by the School Act itself, you have the authority to create your own school in your house. That's why a lot of us here today have said, you don't have to replicate the school, the classroom in your house. You get to decide. You're the superintendent, principal, board of trustees, everything. You don't ever have to ask your facilitator or your manager, can I do such and such? Now, unless you're talking about criminal activity, you know, if you're talking about learning, yeah. But outside of that, if you're just talking about learning ideas, you don't ever have to get anybody's permission to do what you want to do. Because you're not enrolling in my program. You're just telling the government that you're doing it. And you just happen to be doing the paperwork through my program, or Ken's program, or Joanne's program. So the name is very important, but a lot of people just call it the registration form because that's what we're kind of used to hearing. But it's the notification form, and I think that's a big deal when you're coming out, especially when you're coming out of a school situation. And you're always thinking of, oh, I'm accountable to a teacher, I'm accountable to a school, I'm enrolling. It's actually just the opposite.
Yes, if you ever have the feeling or the sense that you are doing what someone else is expecting of you, then it's backwards. Your facilitator should be coming in to support what you think you should be doing. Now, of course, they can help you become more wise about making those decisions, but it's you making the decision. So there should never be a sense of, well, what should I be doing because of what's expected? No. What should I be doing because of this child and what needs they have and what strengths they have? That's what frames the whole thing.
And it's completely natural to have self-doubt all the time. I mean, I'm a veteran homeschooler. My son is 6 now and registered for the first time. And I still get doubt. But that's why the online communities, I find, are so valuable. I've said it time and time again, I couldn't imagine going through this process if this was the age when I was his age, before Google, before Facebook. So it's so valuable to use these resources.
And it's normal about once a month to wake up in a panic. You're messing up your child for life. You're certain you're messing them up for life. More than once.
And then the next day is fantastic.
Yeah. The wise lady I knew down in California, I met her camping. And we found out that we were both homeschooling, and I got to know her. And she said, yeah, we homeschool. But every once in a while we have to Starbucks school. And then we have to Starbucks and McDonald's. She said, sitting beside McDonald's play place and saying, okay, you need to read me 3 more lines before you can go play. Amazing things done. And then she figured, because it was just the 3 of them at home, that they were, kind of missing out on something, and she realized they weren't patient in lines, so they bought a year's pass to Disneyland so they could practice standing in lines. It's like, it'd be nice to live in Southern California. It helped me. My too at the time, so it was like, oh, I don't have to stay in my four walls.
I find we're almost never at home.
That could be a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, there's more than enough to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, sometimes you have to stop and pull back and go, whoa, we're getting way too spread out. We need to have more home
Yes.
time.
I learned that when he was younger, and trying to be super mom like we all do, and we're going to the park, we're going to All Stars, we're going to this, that, and the other thing, and one day he just started crying. He was like, "Can we just stay home?" And I really had to reflect on, yes. Yeah. Sometimes we try too much. Do you have any more questions?
Oh, one thing, just as encouragement, there was a study done, I don't remember the name, but the finding was, or the question they asked was, what's the number one determining factor in a child's success after high school in terms of school? And they looked at all kinds of things. And the study found that the most important item that was most influential in preparing a student successfully for launching out of high school was family time at supper, right? So, when you're thinking you're having a tough day with math, if you're having supper together, you're doing all right. So just keep that in mind, that you can get so wrapped around so many things, but really when it comes down to it, it is community, it's family time. So yeah, don't lose sight of that.
And just
What is the deadline?
well, there's no deadline. Legally, you can begin home educating any time in the year, but there is a funding deadline. September 30th, Alberta Education looks at where the students are on that day, and that's where the funding goes for the whole year. So if you happen to be in school on September 30th and you start a homeschool in October, you would get no homeschool funding. So the school you went to wouldn't get any funding to supervise your program, and you wouldn't have any resources to buy materials either. So it's prudent, if you want to actually access homeschool funding, to notify before the 30th. So like the 29th at the very latest. I don't want to
It's like the 27th.
Yeah.
29th is a Sunday.
Oh yeah, 27.
But
Yeah.
we'll be the 27th.
And you don't have to have your plan made or anything like that. You just have to fill out a form and sign it, email it.
What's the deadline to have the
September 30th.
okay, sorry,
For the funding.
like to say whether you're really
That's for your school. Yeah, I mean, whichever school board you notify to work with,
okay.
they'll get a hold of you, and if you need help, they'll help you get it. It takes a process. Just remember, it is. I've told people, when you write something down, rarely you get what you wrote down right. But something's going to happen. If you don't write it down, you don't even make steps towards it. So you put it down, and everybody here makes changes. We understand. Like, I've spent hundreds of dollars on things that I thought were going to be great, and they were for me, not for my kids, and they lasted about a week. So it's okay.
I feel personally attacked by that.
It's your good company.
Yes, very.
Yeah. Okay, if nobody has any more questions, I think we will wrap this.
Papers that you can pick up.
Yeah, okay, so, most of you guys do have some papers with you. I will be posting this online hopefully tomorrow. Okay, fine, I'll show my face. I was trying to avoid this. I will try to get this online tomorrow, and if anybody has any questions, you can always message me, and I can email the different facilitators if that's easier, or you can always email them yourselves. We'll post the contact information, but either way, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.